Hey guys, it's Alyssa, the hopeless romantic redhead.
And I'm Danielle, the whodunit detective.
And welcome to Main Character Syndrome. If you feel like you are the main character in your life, you are in the right place. Right, Danielle?
You are certainly in the right place, and hopefully you're joining this episode because you are in the heart, the thick of the Throne of Glass series, and we're continuing this episode with our Heir of Fire book, and this is part three. So before we go anywhere else, we'll just say if you haven't read up to chapter 47 through the end of the book, jump out of here, finish it, and then come back.
Yeah,
And
guys, there are
now
going to
let's
be
talk about,
spoiler
yeah.
alert for book one, two, and three. We're finishing all of book three. And of course, we also did the prequel Assassin's Blade. So again, if you haven't read those, we promise they are good. Please read them and then come
Mhm.
listen to our podcast. Danielle, you have a main character moment.
I do. Let's see. Only just a huge one, and that is my husband and I went to the Game 7 NBA Finals in Oklahoma City versus the Pacers and won. So I'm
Yes, you did.
representing my OKC Thunder. We were literally in the nosebleeds, but it doesn't matter because every seat in the stadium I feel like is great. And so we had a great view and we got to see the Thunder win. It was just like electric, and I was just screaming. My husband was like, Danielle, you have to be on the news tomorrow. You can't lose your voice. And I was like, I'm just so excited. Um, so
Priorities.
yeah, priorities, right? And then we drove home from Oklahoma City back to Springfield, Missouri at 11 p.m. and we got home at 3 a.m. and both had to go to work the next day. So we were exhausted, but worth it to see my Thunder win. It was just so incredible. And then I got to watch online the parade, so I was a little bummed I couldn't see the championship parade, but watched it online and it was fantastic. So I'm still on cloud nine, obviously wearing my
I
Thunder jersey.
bet you haven't taken that off since the game.
Well, actually, that's a funny story, Alyssa. And this is actually a very unlucky jersey. So that's why I can wear it now. I wore it for game one and they lost. And I was like, wasn't going to wear it for game seven. And my husband was like, you're being so silly, Danielle. Wear the jersey. You bought it for the playoffs. And I was like, okay. And then the first half of the game, we were like neck and neck and started to lose. We were like down by one at halftime. And they give you like t-shirts to wear over your clothes. And so I went to the bathroom and I took this jersey off and I just wore the t-shirt and then we kicked butt. And so this jersey I might end up burning. Uh, but yeah. So that's my main character moment of the week.
That's
It's a pretty good
amazing.
one.
Well, hey,
Um,
happy wedding anniversary as well. What a way to wrap up the weekend.
Yeah, it was also our 2-year wedding anniversary this past week. So we had like a private dinner experience at a nice place here in town, and it was awesome. And then we went to Oklahoma City. So we did our 2-year anniversary pretty big. So I have high expectations for year number three.
My gosh, can't wait to see your number five.
Well, we're just gonna go to space.
If Katy Perry can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, right. Let me just take out a couple mortgages. Do you have a main character moment for your week?
I do. So I did leave TV, but apparently the TV did not leave me because I recently was in a commercial and you'll hear my voice here in St. Louis. I did a radio voiceover with one of our clients. So yeah, can't take the girl out of the spotlight, I guess.
That's awesome. And actually, I feel that because I did get on the Jumbotron at the game and I said I always find a camera.
Oh,
But
girl, you remember. So I actually used to MC for the Springfield Cardinals,
mhm.
and I used to man the camera at a hockey game in college. And so I'm very well versed with the Jumbotron and the secrets to get on the Jumbotron.
Oh, you just gotta act wild, I feel like.
You gotta be wild, you gotta have energy. With the kiss cam, you gotta literally act like you're like a couple. Like
Uh-huh.
guys, put your arm around her.
You just gotta
They
start
will
kissing.
spot you like nothing.
Like you have to stand up and start kissing. I was a camera operator for the SEC network when I was in college. And so like I feel that. Like they're like, find a new shot, like in your ear talking to you, and you're like, And so if someone's doing something crazy, if someone's already kissing, you're like, awesome.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
like, thank you for making my job easier. My
Yeah.
favorite was the Simba cam where they would hold up babies.
Yes. That's a good one.
It was the cutest thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you think, even if you're in a crowd of 10,000 people, when we're up in the camera, when we're up high and the cameras are up there, we can see you. We can see
Oh
every
yeah.
little detail that you're doing. So if you
Mhm.
think you're being secretive and you're sitting on your
Um,
phone, we're gonna target you.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Also, it's been a while since we did one of these. What is your reading report card, Danielle?
Well, I actually branched out
You
and
branched out.
I liked it. I just finished today the hotel. The country's coming out of me. The hotel. I can't stop now. The hotel.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
I have, I have to get this out. The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hilderbrand. She's the author of The Perfect Couple,
Oh,
the book
okay.
that was made into the TV show. And I feel like, is the now in my perspective, the queen of summer romances. Like it's not
Oh,
necessarily a romance, but it's just like a great summer read, which we'll be getting into in another episode. But I finished that today and I was like, okay, wait, actually, I really like this. So I just
okay.
finished that and I definitely recommend it. I'd give it like a solid 4 or 5 stars.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What are
And
you gonna
that's what you're
read?
reading now?
Yeah,
I'm guessing the last book you read was Heir of Fire.
correct. And then my next one will be Queen of Shadows.
Heck yeah. Okay, my reading report card. So let's see. I've actually read quite a bit. So I think I mentioned I finished Butcher and Blackbird. That was a wild ride.
Uh-huh.
Deep End by Allie Hazelwood. That was my last read. Um, Wowza. Wow. That is the book about the diver and the swimmer. It just
Hmm.
came out in April and
Wow.
it's kinky.
My face. If you're not watching this, literally my skin just ripped off my body.
Yeah, I would say on a scale of chili peppers out of 5, it's probably a 3 because they're in college, so it's not like
Oh, okay.
full
That's not bad.
blown 50 Shades, but it's experimental. Just like, you're finding out what you like.
Oh,
It's a
oh,
lot, but it's like in good taste. I don't know. I
oh.
liked it.
Interesting. Interesting.
Okay, don't come at me.
Did it give you some ideas?
Uh, things not to do, really things not to do, and then yeah.
Good, cool.
Moving on. What I'm reading now is I think it's Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, your favorite author.
Oh, hate her. Just kidding.
I'm listening to it on Libby, one of my favorite apps. If you guys have a library card, it's like $10. Even I think some of them are free online too.
Hmm.
You can download Libby and you can download Hoopla for free audiobooks and free ebooks. You do
Cool.
have to wait in line sometimes, but I mean, I've been waiting for this for 8 weeks and I didn't even notice because I was reading other books. So it
Hmm.
goes pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I really like it so far. It's got like a journalist plot. So being a former journalist, I kind of understand like she's looking for the story, how she's trying to interview this person. So I
Yeah.
really like it so far.
Cool.
And of course, there is a love interest. And so I am like 8 chapters in, so we'll see how this journey goes. But I've heard it's pretty good.
Cool.
And then next, obviously, Queen of Shadows.
Yes. I'm
I'm
excited for that
I've already read the
because
series again, but I'm ready for my reread. Queen of Shadows, I remember, was a really, really good book.
really good.
Yeah.
I
But before
mean,
we get into Queen of Shadows, we have Heir of Fire, and this is why you guys are here today. So we're actually going to get into part 3 of Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. We left off with Rowan and Selena luring a creature to try to kill it
Yeah.
because this army is heading towards Mistward that the king sent. So
Yes.
this episode will be chapter 47 to the end, which I believe is 68. So Danielle, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So jumping into chapter 47, we're right in the thick of the action right now. There is one of these creatures right behind Aelin slash Selena. And immediately this creature like overtakes her mind. The monster has a word stone on, so that's noted. It's like a word stone collar, I believe. Rowan ends up saving Aelin by pulling her away and kind of out of this, and they realize that they are in over their heads. They're definitely outmatched, and then they start to run, but they don't want to run towards Mistward, so they're running towards the mountain. And Selena, Aelin, uses her sword then and kind of makes like this scratching noise or something. She does something to end up call five other monsters that are different. So like we have this one weird creepy monster and then she calls the skinwalkers. And the skinwalkers come and they end up running into this worst monster. And it ends up seeming like the skinwalkers beat this other monster. Aelin and Rowan are hiding, they're just listening. So there's no confirmation on who's won, but in their minds, they're like, oh, okay, the skinwalkers definitely beat this guy. And then that's kind of how the chapter ends.
Slade is kind of a genius. I mean, I would have never thought about that.
Hmm. Yeah, I was like, what is she doing? And then I was like, you smart girl.
Yeah, she's clever. Chapter 48, Rowan and Aelin are back at Mistward getting ready for battle. We are finding out this really sad, sad revelation that there have been uprisings in Calaculla and Endovir, as we know, and the king did not like that, and so the king had every slave killed. Let me repeat that. The king killed every single slave in Calaculla and Endovir, literally Selena's only reason to live at this point. So Rowan unfortunately breaks the news to Selena, who is beside herself and erupts in fire in like this place next to the protective barrier so she doesn't burn everybody, and she just burns. And I am gonna say again, everybody remembers Aelin and Selena are the same thing. We're probably gonna mix those names up quite a
Yeah.
bit. In this book, she is Selena, and until she accepts who she is as Aelin, then her character in the book will be called Aelin.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll just call her Selena then.
I have been like tripping myself up. I'm like, wait, Selena, Aelin, Aelin, Selena, same
Yeah.
person.
Well, yeah, it's like chapter to chapter, they refer to her as different things too. But
Mhm.
like different people refer to her as different things. So, chapter 49, the king I tells everyone, good news, he took care of the slaves. They're all dead, and now we need to replenish the mines, the slave mines, the salt mines of Endovir and Calacola. Kael and Dorian had no idea about any of this. They're shocked and disgusted. Dorian then goes to Sorsha, the healer, and she is crying. She knows about the slaves and she's crying, and Dorian tells her that she needs to leave because he wants to protect her. And he starts to understand now why Kael sent Selena away, and it was to protect her. And now he kind of has this feeling over Sorsha. Sorsha says she won't leave. And then we jump to Kael and Adian, and they are in mourning from this news as well. Then from there, we jump to a whole other scene, another very random scene in the same chapter where they're at the Royal Theater. And by there, I don't know that it's necessarily anyone in general. It's just a scene where people are at the Royal Theater and everyone in the theater is all chatty and they're talking about the news about all of the slaves being murdered. And the musicians come out to play and they're all wearing black. And they then play the song of Eelway and Fenharrow and Melisande and Terrasen. And then they end with the Song of Otterlin. And the next day, the theater is shut down and all of the musicians go missing.
Yeah, that is a hugely impactful scene in this book. I mean, again, it's one of those like silent protests where they're not really disrupting anything, but they're getting noticed.
Hmm.
Kind
Yeah.
of interesting with, where we're at in history right now. All right. Chapter 50. Who else doesn't want to leave like Sorsha? Well, Rowan tries to get Aelin to be like, okay, you can go to Dornell. We'll be fine. And Aelin's like, no, I'm not going to leave you. So she's not going to leave Rowan to fight the dark creatures alone. And she wants to fight to where we get to whatever end. And that will come up multiple times. She then claims Rowan as her friend, and then Rowan calls her Fireheart, one of my favorite terms of endearment for a male lead character to a female character, because this is something that her mother used to call her. So she's like, did he know that my mom used to call me this? They are very close now. We then find out that Rowan actually did send word to his cadre for help because remember, he was like, I don't know, I don't think I'm gonna ask my friends for help because they're sworn to Maeve. They'll tell Maeve.
Hmm.
So he does it anyways. And then the Demi-Fae at Mistward prepare for the attack. And here's something that I want to point out in the book. So while we're having this conversation between Rowan and Aelin, we have multiple of this in the book. And this is where, what is it? Aelin says, you actually called for aid. In the narration, it says his eyes narrowed, and italic says, I just said that I did. He didn't say this out loud. Selena then stood and he retreated a step. What changed your mind? She's like thinking this. And then in italics again, it says, some things are worth the risk. None of this is said out loud, but they're both understanding each other.
Hmm. Interesting.
So I'm like, interesting.
Good to
But I
know.
mean that happens a few times in the book. Remember where I was
Hmm.
like, it's almost like they're reading each other's minds.
Yeah, and there have been other instances where it's kind of, I mean, as someone who is just listening to it and not physically seeing how it's written, there are some notes or like words that they say to each other where I did pick up on that, just not that closely in that situation, but there's definitely other times as well where
Yeah, they have like silent conversations. It's like they know exactly what the other's trying to say.
hmm.
Quite the bond.
Yeah. Chapter
Um,
51, Rowan then wakes Selena up in the night. The Demi-Fae there at Miss Word have been betrayed. So someone ended up telling the army where all of the traps that they had set for them were. And then Selena and the others begin to smell the quote unquote otherworldly enemies. And we see the three monsters again. So they weren't dead. That one didn't die. And there's word stones around all of their necks. The skinwalkers didn't actually kill that one. And General Narok appears, and he also has on this obsidian black. The soldiers were let in through the escape tunnels there, and Aelin Selena leaves the protection of the Ward Stone to go and fight these monsters and General Narok.
Yep, things are getting dicey. Chapter 52, Selena leaves the protection of the ward to fight the dark creatures with her fire. This is only where Rowan's like, you can only fend them off as soon as you feel like you're running out, leave, it's okay. So then Selena basically promises that she'll listen to him. Does she ever listen to anybody? Come
No.
on. Then she finds out that these Vogue aren't just any Vogue. They are Vogue princes from another world. And they also recognize Goldrin, Aelin's sword that used to be Brennan's. So these are creatures from the first war that they had.
And if you
Uh,
remember, Goldrin, the sword, is the one that she got underneath the mountain when they were melting the ice
mhm,
with Luca chained up. So she got the sword then, as
mhm.
well as the ring. So
Yep.
just to know.
Yeah. And these princes recognize this sword because it was used in a previous battle. Then Gavriel and four of Rowan's warrior friends finally arrived to help. Remember, Rowan called for them, and they answered. So we have Fenris and Connell. They are two twin. Well, they are twins. They are wolves. We have Lorcan, who is a very powerful fae. Remember him. And Vaughn, he is an osprey, which is like a type of bird. And then Selena is fighting these things, and she's quickly overwhelmed by the darkness, and it is not looking good because the five warriors look at her, basically let her fend for herself. Selena says, "Go help Rowan," and they leave. So she's by herself. So
Yeah, Gabriel was
quickly
like the only
succumbing to this
one that
darkness.
like hesitated for a second, like turned around and looked at her and then ran away. But
Yeah,
they're all kind of like, "Peace, girlfriend. Good
yeah,
luck."
yeah. She's fine.
Yeah, she'll die. It's whatever. Chapter 53, Selena is then back into her nightmares thanks to the Volg. She's there in all of this darkness and they're trying to feed off of her misery. And she's in this dark abyss and she thinks that she's in hell. And then, kind of at the end of the chapter, she is in this hell and she's being whipped now by her old lover who's died, Sam, and her old best friend, Nehemia, and all of these other people that she's killed are whipping her.
Yeah, this is dark. Buckle
Yeah.
up, Buttercup. Chapter 54 is a long one.
Yeah.
Aelin is still trapped in this darkness, showing her worst memories. The King of Adarlan and Prince Dorian come to Orinth to visit. This is in the past. She is a young girl. Aelin meets Dorian for the first time during a feast, and they kind of have this cute little back and forth where she tells him he eats like a lady, and he says, I eat like a prince. It's very cute interaction.
Hmm.
Aelin starts having really bad headaches, and it's like something is worming its way into her mind. She starts to lose control of her magic. She then accidentally starts a fire during this feast, and then, she has to be excused. Her mother has to put her out. And the king, as she's leaving, smiles at her. Then later, Aelin's mother gives her the amulet of Orinth to protect her. Then Aylin's parents take her to their family's manor away from the castle. So we're in two locations. The feast is in the castle where the king of Otterland is staying. And then they have like their own little manor out in the countryside. So they take her to the manor away from the castle. And then during a storm at night, Aylin goes to sleep with her parents. And then when she wakes up, she finds them dead and she's covered in their blood. The attacker then returns to kill her after, it's announced that the King of Orinth is dead and like everybody's in a panic. Marion, her lady in waiting maid, is the one to save her by buying her time, dying in the process. Her last words are to tell Elide I love her very much. Remember this. Aelin is then, she just like takes off while Marion tries to fend for herself and then ends up dying. And Aelin kind of hears, her scream and then nothing, which is chilling. Aelin then, she's not fast enough. She's trying to run for this bridge, but the man chasing her cuts the bridge before she can get across. And she falls into the water where Arabin actually found her. And that was the last place she saw the amulet, which had a weird marking on the back, by the way. Marion's sacrifice has haunted Selena to this day, and she has been unable to face the painful memory. The Vogue princes decide to keep her alive, trapped in darkness for her power, but also because her trauma is very entertaining. Then, with some help from her younger self, Aelin Galathinius, telling her to get up, Selena does.
This was like an insane chapter. Like, I feel like if I was going to reread this book again, I would want to reread this chapter like specifically multiple times. Because it was crazy to hear Selena's whole story, what led up to her parents being killed. And she's going through it right now. She's like, doesn't want to live anymore. She's like accepted death. And she's just like I deserve to die because of all of the terrible things I've done. And she has so much remorse and she feels bad about the sacrifice that so many other people have made for her, basically, in their lives that have led to their deaths. Nehemia, and then is it Marion, I believe? Yeah,
Mhm.
Marion sacrifice as well. And then after all of these memories, Aelin holds out her hand to Selena. So
Mhm.
it's like seems like two different characters, but obviously they were the same person. But Aylin's holding out her hand and she's like, get up, get up. And finally, Selena embraces who she is. She accepts her fate and role as Ash River Galathinius.
Mhm.
And I was just like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah, like go girlfriend. So there's just like a giant wildfire, I feel like that has started, figuratively, not literally. So that's where that chapter ended, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Then we jump to chapter 55. Rowan wants to run out there and help Aelin, but his friends aren't letting him. They're holding him back. They think she's just about dead from burnout, but she's not. And all of a sudden, she stands up and she has this glowing mark on her forehead, which we have heard of before. And her eyes are glowing like a lit flame. And then she grabs two of the Volg by the face and then burns them immediately. They were like flames shot out of their eyes. And I was like, whoa, this is
They didn't
crazy.
stand a chance.
Yeah. And then Narok and the last Volg are there ready to fight her for some reason after seeing that craziness. And Rowan's running at her now and he slices his palm open and you're like, what are you doing? And so it was intentional. And then all of a sudden it's like, we both know what's what's up. They both know they're bonded by this Karanom match. They're matches for each other. And she cuts her palm as well. They join hands and he then says, I claim you too, Aelin Galathinius. And she uses this new power that he's sent her to push back all of the darkness and overpower them with her light. And Aelin, in the process, she has a vision of the future, basically, that kind of Narok gave her. So she sees the future briefly. They don't tell us what she sees. And then all of a sudden, the darkness briefly leaves Narok's eyes. And it seems like he's basically showing gratitude for her and what she's doing right now. And it kind of proves that he is unwilling in this and that he does not want to be this bad person. That is, of course, the king. And then they both die to ash, and four wardstone collars then lie in the grass.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of shows that Narok, the person, did not actually want to do any of the things that he's done. The Volk Prince took over and was like making him do almost like possession. We kind of get
Hmm.
into a little bit of kind of like what demonic possession would be like.
Yeah.
Also going back to chapter 54, I forgot to mention, um, all of those things points to obviously she's figuring out the king was behind all of this that happened to
Oh,
her
yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Because the king had somehow had magic to make her go insane. Because remember Caltaine, she would get headaches and she would kind of just go a little crazy.
Yeah.
And anybody who experienced that darkness in any of the lands, like the soldiers who would bash their skulls in because they would hear voices or just get headaches. The king caused all that. And so she is realizing the king was behind everything,
And was
including her
testing
parents' death.
power on her that
Mhm.
night. I was like, let's see if I can control this Fae.
Yeah. But luckily, Adian got away and unfortunately is in servitude to the king.
Hmm.
But all right, moving back on to chapter 56. Dorian and Sorsha are being flirty as always when Kale barges in the chat, telling Dorian he was right. Kale explains to Dorian everything that Selena told him and anything that he and Adian found out about the towers. So he's learning about the word keys, the word marks, and the fact that this tie might be leading to what happened to magic about 10 years ago. So Dorian and Kale experiment on a smaller scale of the towers, trying to figure out how the king made magic disappear. They mimic the tower triangle with some crystals, sand from the red desert, and water, and find out their little triangle spell worked. They figure out the clock towers are the bigger version, and that is how magic disappeared. They now know that they have to take out the towers. Then Kale recognizes that Dorian is speaking like a king, and he's acting like a king. And Dorian's finally growing up, man.
Yeah.
Our little cinnamon roll.
We love Dorian. Chapter 57. We learned then after this whole battle, Selena has killed the Volg. Only 15 of the Demi-Fae there died, so minimal casualties on their end. And then all of a sudden, the captured soldiers offed themselves. So, like, they all had like poison with them and were like, we're not going to get interrogated. And so none of them live.
No secrets.
Rowan, what?
I said no secrets. Dead men tell no tales.
Yeah, right. Rowan then hides the collars instead of giving them to Maeve. So that's important. I feel like, he's realizing he can't trust Maeve, this queen that he has a blood vow with. Gabriel then tells Rowan to be careful when facing Maeve because they will have given their report to her by the time he gets back there with Aelin. And I was kind of curious, like, why it would be a bad report necessarily. But he's just like, be careful. And then Rowan and her, Aelin, are at the water, and he warns her that the world now is going to hear about Aelin Galathynius taking down Narok and that his army and that the king will hunt her down now. So people are going to know she's alive now. Aelin then realizes while they're sitting there that the Eye of Orinth is actually the third and final word key, and she lost it when she fell into the river that night. Her parents, well, a night or two after her parents died. Brandon had put the word key inside of the amulet, and he had never told a soul. She realizes then also that Arabin took it from her, actually, the night that he rescued her, and that she has to get it back from Arabin. So he's back in the picture now. Obviously, there has to be some type of confrontation, and I wonder if Arabin knows the power that he has. I feel like no, he doesn't. I hope not. But anyways, the
We'll find
necklace.
out.
The necklace is a word key, and that's significant. It's the last one, we think. She won't tell Rowan this realization that she's had because of his blood vow to Maeve, and Maeve could make him tell her this. She then tells Rowan her story about the night her parents died, and this is the story that she refers to not being able to tell before because it was too painful. She then begins to control water in front of him. If you remember, she has just a little bit of that power in blood, and she hasn't been able to control it yet before that we've seen. And so she does this right then. It's just a little bit, and she splashes him. Emerus and Luca then throw a celebration for winning this battle, and it seems like the joy in Selena Aelin's soul has finally returned. And then we learn that her and Rowan, they need to leave for Doranel now, and that's where they go.
Yep. Chapter 58 is a very, very short chapter. Basically, what Rowan says comes true. Adian, Kale, Ren, and Murtaugh all hear of Aelin's big win in Wendlin, and all the rebels celebrate the news that she's alive.
And chapter 59, it takes Aelin and Rowan a week to get to Doranel. It is called the City of Rivers. I don't know if that's important, but I just made that note. And then Aelin still has If you remember the ring from under the mountain that she got in her pocket, and they end up meeting with Maeve. Maeve says that the word keys can't be destroyed, they can only be put back in the. Maeve then tells Aelin also that she has no idea how to put them back. I think she's a liar. And she describes what they look like. She says that they are black and glittery like stone, but not stone. And then Aelin starts asking about the Volg princes because she realizes Maeve's not really going to give her any other information about these word keys. So she asks about the Volg princes, and we learn that there are many races of Volg, and they are ruled by the princes. However, there are a lot of princes, I'm pretty sure. Can you clarify that? There's like more princes that they reference. So we killed three or four.
Yeah, there's a king and princes. I mean, it's just like a family, I guess.
Okay, but there's more princes who rule over all of these folk.
Yeah, I think so. Because there's Erewhon, who's like the big bad Vol king, and
Okay.
then yeah, the princes are. I don't really know. It wasn't.
They haven't given
Maybe it'll
us a
be
lot of
explained
detail
later.
about it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
so I
see.
was just wondering. Brannon, we learn, was not royal born, and then Maeve brings up her brow mark, the glowing mark on her forehead, and she says that it's a mark to identify her bloodline as bastards and nameless. So each of Brandon's heirs has been given them. So Brandon was a bastard, and then kind of worked his way up. And Aelin asks why it glows, and Maeve really doesn't give her a good answer as to why her mark on her forehead glows. And it's not there all the time. The king is using magically gifted people, we learn, as hosts for the Volg. The king needs all three word keys to create an army of the dead, which is basically Volg who can take over hosts who are dead. So it's easier to create this army of the dead if people are dead and they don't have magic in their blood. So,
You'd be unstoppable at that point.
yes. So Maeve then orders Rowan to tell her if Aelin knows where the final word key is, and he's forced to tell her that she does, but that he doesn't know where. Maeve has Rowan whipped until Aelin tells where it is, but she refuses to tell where it is to Maeve. And then Aelin loses her control, and the gold in her eyes once again turns to flame. And Maeve actually seems to be a bit scared by this, like a little taken aback, like, oh crap, she's kind of a baddie.
Yeah, Selena loses her shit.
hmm
That's a good way to put it. I mean, threaten Selena's loved one, she'll come after you. And we know this. And so, chapter 60, badass Selena Sardathian is back. She sets the entire island aflame with her wildfire, but she is controlling it. So, she has gotten super powerful since this battle. And she's controlling this fire so it doesn't burn anyone by her choice. But Maeve points out that the city is made of stone. And Selena nicely points out, quote, your people aren't. Maeve sees that she means it. And Selena, our ever so clever female lead, made a big realization by connecting the dots that Maeve killed her lover, Athril, who was the warrior who died and took that monster's eye in the frozen lake and she killed him in order to get the word keys for herself because she wanted more power because Maeve is sus. But Brannon escaped with them before she could. And so the ring that Selena found in the cave with the frozen lake monster was Athril's, and she then threatens Maeve with that ring to bargain for Rowan's freedom from his blood oath. Apparently, Maeve is very sentimental and agrees, but she basically says that Aelin will pay for this. So Rowan is so grateful. Then he offers up another blood oath to Selena. So he's doing this in front of Maeve. Maeve is like, WTF? And she's pissed. She will never forget this. And but at the same time, like, Rowan, dude, breathe a little bit. Even Selena's like, you have been under this blood oath for centuries. Like, chill. But then Rowan's like, no, I want to be blood sworn to you. So he is her first servant,
Mhm.
and he's the first one to swear this blood oath. This may come up in the future because who else wanted to be the first one to swear the blood oath?
Adian.
Adian. So that may come up later. Selena then they leave, and Selena has Rowan tattoo her back with her story and the names of her dead loved ones, just like Rowan has on his skin.
Yeah. Then, if you've forgot about it, we also have the witches. It was like a lot of chapters without hearing about them. Then we get to chapter 61, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's going on in another part of this world. And their war games begin. Each clan has a nest, and they have a glass egg that they have to protect, and then they must collect other clans' eggs. The Blackbeaks collect the blue blood's egg first, and then they want to go for the yellow legs. So Iskra, who is a yellow leg, attacks Petra, who is a blue blood, and her wyvern that she is riding in the air. All of a sudden, we have Manon, who is going after the yellow legs' eggs because she's already captured the blue bloods. Then Manon hears Petra scream and looks over and sees Iskra attacking Petra, and it's not going well. And all of a sudden, Manon tells Abraxos that she needs to dive for the egg, but he refuses because Petra is falling from the sky on her wyvern and they're about to crash. And she's like, Manon's like, come on, Abraxos, we have to get the egg. Let's win. We don't care about them. And then all of a sudden, yeah, Petra's falling from the sky and Abraxos like, I'm gonna dive down to save you. So,
Yep. Then we get into chapter 62. They do save Petra, much to her grandmother's dismay, and then she and the 13 win the war games, and Manon is crowned wing leader. As her reward, her grandmother gifts her a Kraken witch to kill. Now, if you remember, there's this rivalry between the Iron Teeth clan and the Krakens, and the Iron Teeth have just like hunted down these Krakens just to kill them because they think that they're weak. So this Kraken then tells Manon she wasn't born to be a monster. She heard of what happened during war games, and she actually thinks she's a good person, and that the Blackbeaks and her family made her this way. Manon kills the witch and then takes her cloak since her old one is a little ragged and old. Later, Manon's in deep thought, and she has some regret of not knowing what the witch's name was. So
mhm.
here we get a little more humanity from Manon, who's
Yeah.
not your typical Blackbeak witch.
And she didn't want there was definitely some hesitation overall to kill the Kraken, which was like weird because that was her goal at the beginning of the book. But yeah, she has like all of these deep feelings now that she's not really understanding. She's questioning her grandmother and their leadership. And
She's supposed to be
she's
like her grandmother. She's supposed to be ruthless,
yeah.
no feelings. She's just supposed to kill and not ask questions.
Yeah, she's like, I don't have a soul, I don't have a heart, none of that. But she's starting to prove to herself that she actually might. Then in chapter 63, Adian and Kaol are together. Kaol doesn't tell Adian about the clock towers and his discovery of magic and how to stop the magic. They then come up with an escape plan for Dorian and Sorsha, and then Kaol all of a sudden is summoned by the king and arrives to this room with Adian also there, surrounded by the secret guards of the king that we've heard about. Dorian then runs to Sorsha to try and get her to leave quickly, and they're trying to escape, but Sorsha's boss is there and is like, no, no, no. You guys are also going to come with me and we're going to go to the king right now. You've been caught.
Yeah, this this chapter's rough. Buckle up. Chapter 64. The king reveals he knows everything. Like, literally, they thought they were being so sneaky, so smart. No, not a chance. He has spies that have seen Kale and Dorian, or Kale and Adian sneaking out together. He also knows that Dorian had plans to leave with Sorsha. Then, as he's like, all right, who's the traitor? Adian then says he's the sole traitor, and the king captures him and says he will be executed for his treachery, hoping news will get out to Aelin Galathinius, and she will try to come to Rifthold to save her cousin. Then it is revealed that Sorsha was sending letters outside the castle, and they were being intercepted and read by the king's spies, king's staff. It revealed that she has been sharing information with the rebels. So, dun dun, Sorsha, her fate is sealed and she is beheaded for her treachery right in front of Dorian, and her head literally rolls to his feet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this was so hard. But I was also like, I mean, I feel so bad. And I feel bad for Sorsha, I feel bad for Dorian, but I'm like, girlfriend, if you were doing this secret mission being a spy, yeah, the worst person you could get involved with, of course, was Dorian. And like the king even like says that. He was like, yeah, if you hadn't been like with my son, basically, you would have been in the shadows and I would have known nothing about you.
Well, he would have been fine with the affair, right? He would have been fine if they were just sleeping together because it's just a woman for Dorian. But the thing is, she was sending letters. Like, she wasn't careful about what she was saying in these
Hmm.
letters either.
Yeah. No code or anything, but it was revealed that she was just telling information about the king. So she was not, you know, spying on Dorian and trying to hurt Dorian in any way. So
Right. She was just
yeah,
doing it for the rebels.
yeah, she actually like really liked Dorian and was just trying to take down the king.
Yeah, she's not the
That
betrayer that you thought she was, but she was a rebel.
Yeah, so she wasn't betraying Dorian, but yeah, she was a rebel. So I knew that. But I'm glad to know that she wasn't hurting sweet cinnamon roll.
You knew she was sus from the beginning.
Yeah. So chapter 65, just kind of we start off in the same scene. Sorsha's head's gone, and it's just really sad. Chaol, sweet Chaol, then draws his sword against the king and says Dorian is the true king and the Queen of the North is going to take him down. So, big monumental moment. And the king then orders Chaol to be killed. Dorian then turns the entire room they're in into ice and blasts the king into his chair. He then tells Chaol Dorian to run, and that when Chaol comes back eventually, to burn this whole place down. And then finally, they all kind of realize and recognize that this was all a trap set up by the king for Adian, for Sorsha, for Chaol, and Dorian, because he suspects that Dorian has magic and has been hiding it. So the king then uses his own power on Dorian and ends up putting one of the collars on Dorian, and blackness sweeps over him. And so now Dorian's in the king's grasp, but Chaol has run away. He runs and he grabs Fleetfoot, which it's been a long time since we've heard about Fleetfoot. Fleetfoot is Selena's dog that Dorian's been taking care of. And he grabs Fleetfoot and he runs into the tomb and he goes and he takes the sword Damaris and he talks to the door knocker and tells him basically where he's going to be if Aelin comes back. And then Chaol runs to Selena's apartment and we learn that Sorsha was the one who was sending these letters to Ren. Or we learned that Sorsha was sending the letters to the rebel Ren, who was also there at the apartment waiting for Chaol.
Yeah, and
So end
Bond
of
and
chapter 65. It's
Ren's like, oh sick or oh shit.
yeah, he's sad and hurt by this too.
Yeah. Basically he got her killed.
Hmm.
He originally Sorsha didn't really know what she was doing, and then Ren's like, I only asked her for like minor information about like the king's whereabouts and not good. Bad news bears. 66 is a really, really short chapter. The witches are basically being sent to Morath to, quote, serve the Duke. And who is the Duke? I'm assuming Duke Parrington. He and Caltaine Rompier have been, remember Caltaine when she was in the dungeon, she's like, they're sending me to Morath. So
To
that is
marry the
where
Duke.
she will be, that is where the Duke will be, and I'm assuming that is where the next book will take us.
Yes. Chapter 67. This character is never identified, but we know who it is. They say a cloaked man is in the slums of Rifthold. They don't say it directly, but we know it's Kaol, and he has a sword with an eagle on it, and he ends up throwing that sword in the water, and he has a new sword with an ancient blade, and it's Damaris. And then that's
This is
kind of
really
that.
symbolic for Kale. He's throwing his captain of the guard sword into the water. He's throwing that part of himself away, and he's becoming this rebel with the sword
Yeah,
of Damaris.
yeah.
Good,
I love
good
that.
for our little Kale friend. And then chapter 68. Rowan and Selena are traveling to a port in Wendelin. The blood oath has been made, and Rowan is even more protective and paranoid about her safety because of this bond, is what Selena thinks. Selena then plans to go back to Rifthold as Selena Sardathian, not Aelin Galathynius, to get the amulet from Erebin. Rowan's not happy with this plan, and he basically says, please stay, because the king will kill her for not producing the dead bodies, not doing her job. And Selena stubbornly says she's going to do it, and then she says she'll send for him. So she then asks him, what did you pray for Mala that one morning on the way to Dornell? Rowan says he prayed for two things: for her to survive the encounter with Maeve and to have strength to face her. And the second, we don't really know because he doesn't say it outright, only that it was a selfish wish and a fool's hope, but it came true. We can only assume it was to break his blood oath to Maeve. Then Selena boards a boat sailing to Rifthold while Rowan flies above her, sending her off as she acknowledges that she is Aelin Ash River Galathinius and she will not be afraid.
She won't be afraid. Ah,
Like I said,
chills,
that term will come in the book many, many times.
chills, chills. Oh,
SJM is such a genius. I mean, she always ends up having that last 100 pages of her book be a total whirlwind.
yeah. Like we were getting a lot of action up until then too. And then all of a sudden it was like, we're beheading people now. The king actually has known all of his stuff for a long time. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wild ride. We're only on book three. How are you feeling?
I know. I'm like a little overwhelmed, but I'm excited. So it'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm,
What were your favorite parts? Did you have any thoughts, feelings,
uh-huh.
emotions?
Thoughts, feelings, emotions. Um, thoughts, I definitely like Selena more. Like this is the book, like such a big turning point, I feel like for her character. She's kind of like really, I mean, I love her. She's a baddie, but she's kind of really annoying at times in the other books, being so like cocky and self-centered. And finally here in this book, I mean, she like all of her walls are broken down. She's at like the lowest point in her life, and she's like, yeah, I'm not that big of a deal. And then turns out she's a huge deal. I mean, she literally sends flames through people's eyeballs. But yeah, just is not as obnoxious about how powerful she is. So I really liked that. I'm really confused about this Rowan relationship. Like, I'm like, is it going to turn romantic? Because I still think it's kind of weird that they're like cousins or something, even though I know he's like hundreds of years old. Like, so much older than her. I'm like, it's kind of weird. I still kind of want her to end up with Dorian. Um, I like Kaol having this turning point also in his life. But yeah, I just love Dorian, so I want Dorian and Aelin to be together and like rule the world together in peace. I don't know.
Mum's the word. My lips are sealed. No, this was a definite character growth for Aelin. This was her character growth book. Remember, she
Hmm.
came in, she's like, I'm Selena Sardathian. I'm not Aelin. That is behind me. That is my past. I'm moving forward now as this assassin. And she's finally realizing that she has responsibilities. She has to take ownership of, these people that are dying under this oppressive king, and she needs to free her people. So she's finally growing into her real name, Aelin
Hmm.
Ashriver Galathinius. And she's a badass. She can wield fire and a little bit of water.
Yeah, I'm sad she can't use it in Rifthold because I'd like to see her light some fire through Arabin's face. Like just burn him to ash.
That would be nice to see. Well, they are eventually going to target the towers, so I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Hmm.
Remember, guys, I already read the series, so I can't really say too much. But my favorite part about this book is, again, I'm a hopeless romantic. So any of the sweet moments between Aelin and Rowan and them like being true enemies at the beginning and then bonding through trauma in a sense, but also like experiences together. So they were both really, really hurt, but they healed together in a sense. So it's less trauma bonding and more healing.
Hmm. You
And
love an
just,
enemies to lovers.
girl, I eat that shit up. It's so good. I just love the tension.
Yeah.
But there are also like a lot of the growth with Rowan as well. He's this big bad grumpy Fae, and
He's
then
so
he ends
grumpy.
up having, soft spots, and he's like Fireheart, like I claim you as my friend.
Yeah, oh
And
my
they have this
gosh.
beautiful friendship.
When they were like, I claim you, I was like, oh my gosh. That was
It
when I
was,
was like, okay, I can kind of get into this a little bit, them being together, but I don't know. I love Dorian so much.
I know, but what sent me over the edge was Fireheart. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, I
Yeah.
ship you.
Gosh, I'm like, my husband, he just calls me sugar pie. And I'm like, no, I want to be called Fireheart. Don't call me
That's better
sugar
than
pie.
sugar tits.
Sugar tits. Oh yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, I don't have any, so you can't really do
Facts.
that.
I mean, same.
Uh,
Itty
but
bitty titty committee.
but yeah. So I'm sugar pie, but I want to be fire heart now. So we're gonna need to change that.
Yeah. Give him the memo, give him the book, and then just be like, this is
Yep.
what I want.
My name is Fireheart now.
Call me Aelin Ashra Galathinius.
My younger sister, she actually has said she's told her boyfriend that she wants her child to be named Aelin
I've actually considered it because it's
if she has
actually
a
a really
daughter.
pretty name.
Yeah, and at first I was like, that's weird. And then like now I'm like, honestly, Aelin, I like it.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, there's a
actually
lot of
really,
great.
really liked that name when I read it for the first time. I was like, huh, maybe if I ever
Hmm.
have kids, that
I don't know
could
that I
be
would
fun.
spell it the way that you spell it. I'm going to spell it the way that it sounds, or
How
I
did
spell
you
it in
spell
our
it?
notes, Ailin. You spell it
Okay.
Aelin, I believe. But once again, I'm actually just proving the point right now that I've never opened the book. I do have I have them all, but they're basically for show because I'm so busy that I just listen to audiobooks. But I own the book.
No, that's fair. I mean, I listened to the audiobook and I read the physical book as well. But anytime I listen to audiobooks, I will say this until I'm blue in the face. Listening to an audiobook is reading. You are
Hmm.
listening to the words, you are comprehending the story. You are actually probably reading more words in your head than you would on the book because you are listening to every single word. Versus in the book, sometimes your eyes tend to wander, they tend to skim.
And I've heard that it's actually really good for you to listen to the audiobooks because you're listening to proper English. So we conversationally do not talk proper. And so you're actually
Properly.
here. Yeah, properly, proper, whatever. I don't know.
I'm giving you shit.
My English is terrible. Literally. But so you're listening to how you're actually supposed to talk.
Mhm.
Obviously, maybe it hasn't helped me enough yet, so I need to keep doing it.
That's fine. Before we get on a TED Talk about audiobooks
Yes.
versus physical books,
Oh, we'll make that another episode.
please let us know your thoughts, feelings, emotions on Heir of Fire or any of the other books in the Throne of Glass series. For now, to the readers who listen, we'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.